Hello, everybody, and welcome to Project HR, a podcast dedicated to building better workplaces. Project HR is brought to you by IRI Consultants. IRI helps organizations navigate workplace challenges, improve employee engagement and productivity, manage labor relations, and implement effective communication strategies to achieve their goals. For more information, you can visit IRI online at iriconsultants.com. I am Jennifer Oraquah, Director of Business Development for IRI, and your host for today's episode of Project HR. To be successful in talent acquisition today, you need a secret weapon. And for those, like me, who appreciate the power of employment branding, WilsonHCG's annual Employment Brand Report is the secret weapon you're looking for. Today, I'm joined by Meghan Ford and Gillisa Pope from WilsonHCG. Meghan's team drove the research for the report alongside the innovation team with Gillisa. It's great to have you both on Project HR.
Thank you
It's
so
great
much for
to be
having us.
here.
So let's delve a little bit into the history of this report. So Meghan, when did WilsonHCG begin compiling this report? What inspired it?
Yeah, so if I go back quite a while now, the first report we released was back in 2014. We started compiling research for the report the year before in 2013. We realized that companies were taking like an inbound marketing approach, which that's my
Mm-hmm.
specialty, right? Marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So we
Mm-hmm.
we noticed that companies were taking that inbound marketing approach to hiring. And it was mainly like in the Silicon Valley tech space where it was extremely competitive for software engineers and other tech talent. So the likes of like Microsoft and Apple, Facebook, they were really making this concerted effort to attract that type of talent, and they were wanting the talent to come to them. So we got curious about what they were doing and wanted to study that. John Wilson, our CEO, he kind of challenged his leadership team at the time to say, let's figure out a way that we can objectively evaluate an employment brand and see how impactful their branding tactics are and if they are really kind of attracting the right people that they're looking to attract. So that's where the idea came about. There was a small team of researchers at Wilson that just started analyzing to see what elements went into employment branding and how those were being impactful out in the wild. So yeah, we just saw no one was doing anything kind of objectively, and we decided we were going to look for it and find it.
I love that. I love the applying the inbound marketing approach to recruiting. That's fantastic. So, has the research process evolved over the years?
Yeah, it absolutely has. Employment brand is a company's unique employee value proposition, and their employment branding is the management of that reputation and the positioning of their company as an employer of choice. So, our report focuses on the branding aspects because the strategies and the tactics for attracting talent are constantly evolving, and our research process and our methods evolve right alongside with that. So our method, like Megan was describing before, it really evaluates an employment brand in six key components or elements. So we're looking at the career site, recruitment marketing, job advertising, the employer's reputation, accolades, and corporate social responsibility. And then each one of those elements are broken down into essential benchmarks. And our process for researching an analysis is really completely objective. So that element or benchmark is either present or it's not present. But our analysts are really good at interpreting and understanding how that benchmark is being executed in terms of the overall employment branding strategy. So our criteria are constantly evolving and changing as those tactics and techniques companies are using are constantly evolving and changing. So one aspect that is different that I can give an example is video testimonials. So, video testimonials, when we started the report, wasn't something that was necessarily common when you were looking at an employer brand. And when you did see them, they were super highly produced, almost like company commercials in a
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Very long. Yeah, I think you guys have maybe seen a couple
Sure. Yeah.
before. But now, as technology has evolved, and really you can almost think about the iPhone being a catalyst for this, these employee testimonial videos take a completely different approach. So people are asking their employees and their talent base to turn the camera around and almost in an influencer style, explain why they want to work at an organization, or what the best day of work is like for them, or what is a goal or objective they have, and how that company has helped them achieve that personally or professionally. So, the way that videos are used and incorporated into the branding has changed, and the way that we evaluate the effectiveness of those videos have changed with the methodology.
So, what was the research process for this year's report?
This year we did a pretty big overhaul. So historically what we've looked at is the Fortune 500 when we were ranking and evaluating and analyzing brands. This year what we wanted to do was increase diversity. So we wanted to look at different companies of all sizes, from fast moving scaling startups to mid-sized companies that were just starting to mature to the Fortune 500. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because really the talent market was turned upside down over the last 2 years. We saw a lot of things start to change, and we started to think about how the playing field of employment branding had kind of leveled off. So we were at a period of time, 2 years ago, even last year, where talent had more options than ever before when they were considering where they wanted to work, what they wanted to do, how they wanted to work. And so we wanted to see how these companies of different sizes were competing now suddenly for the same talent pool. Remote working options and flex working options, all of that kind of drove into this. Um, like I said, level playing field for companies. And so we wanted to evaluate how employer brands that were maybe smaller, that were just scaling up, some of the ingenious things that they were doing to maximize a budget that might not be there, or to piggyback on corporate efforts because they didn't have a team necessarily
Mhm.
to execute on the employment brand. And we just wanted to do a compare and contrast this year just to get an idea of how companies of all sizes were approaching brand, and what their strategic advantages were in the war for talent, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's fascinating how it's evolved over the years. How now that since it's fairly well established, how do people typically use the report?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways that people typically use the report. I would say the first one is that they scramble to open it and see who ranked where. There's definitely, we definitely have people that have appeared on the report multiple years and they are curious, like, did we move up or did we move down? Or how has the methodology changed and how did that affect where we landed? So they're really kind of comparing themselves to themselves, but also with their competitors. And when I say competitors, I really mean their hiring competition. Because, like
Mhm.
Gillisa said, we've realized that, like, companies in the same industry and of the same size or even in the same location are not necessarily the ones competing for the same talent anymore.
Mm.
So I would say that one aspect is it comes down to benchmarking. So they're either, comparing themselves to themselves from previous years and seeing progress, or they're wondering how they compare to competitors. And then the other way, which we've worked really hard to do at Wilson, is making sure we incorporate takeaways and actionable ideas that anybody who opens the report can implement to their
Mm.
employment brand. So I would say that's the second way. And when I talk about like takeaways and actionable ideas, we always tell companies, even as far as the evaluation goes, it's very much a scorecard and audit. It's not a grade. So everything that's in that report is like should be taken into context for what a company's actually trying to achieve. They might have to consider things like the size of their company and resources and budget and things like that, but we're hoping to kind of create this true north with the methodology and criteria that we evaluate on, so it gives companies some directional information and kind of shares where they should be headed and what's kind of happening in the space.
Yeah, we grade thousands of brands a year. We analyze thousands of employment brands and do hundreds of consultations. And really, for us, we want people to use the report, like Megan said, as a North Star of, hey, this is what is achievable, but here are the realistic, actionable steps that you can take to make a difference or fill some of those gaps that you might have in your employment branding strategy, and really use it as inspiration to innovate your brand and bring to market something that is going to be attractive to talent and help you reach your hiring goals.
So everybody who knows me knows I love that. I love actionable ideas. We can talk about all the data we want. We can wax philosophical, but until we can do something with it, it's really kind of neither here nor there. So given the growing challenges in talent acquisition, have you seen an upswing in interest in the report in recent years?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as companies are looking for a competitive edge, they're looking for any kind of information that they can glean to determine how they can elevate their brand and attract more talent, especially organically. I think something to mention we talked about a little bit earlier is just the widening of the talent market as well. Everyone needs tech talent, not just tech companies, for example. So tech companies are now competing with the likes of banking and financial services, for example, because they need tech talent too. So everyone's looking for that competitive edge. I think the interest in the report previously was that people were just curious about what elements were important in employment branding. They were just curious, like, what goes into it? How do we
Hmm.
do this thing? And that was back in 2014 and 15. The first few years of the report. But it was something newer and different, and just kind of being talked about. But now I think what's important to people are they're wondering how they can get a leg up on the competition. I just like Alyssa said, we our report's been downloaded thousands of times across more than 50 countries. We are thrilled that people feel like it is that useful, just in the global landscape. And when you have the likes of Amazon and Cisco and Visa downloading the report, for example, it's a really, really cool thing to see.
For sure. And I know you mentioned a minute ago that this is the first year you widened your analysis to include small and medium-sized companies also. Can smaller companies really make the same kind of impact on employment brand that a Fortune 500 can?
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes they even have more to leverage, which is really exciting. When we started the process for research this year, we talked to a lot of our different companies that we work with, and prospects, and technology vendors, and employment branding vendors. And they were really specifically interested in, what can a smaller company do to leverage a strong employer brand? Now, if you think of these large enterprise companies, yeah, they have a lot of advantages. They have big budgets, they have all the technology, they have huge teams that can deliver a great employment brand strategy. But these smaller companies, what we've seen is that they are just much more responsive and agile when it comes to branding, and also when it comes to social media trends. So oftentimes, they can be a little bit more creative in how they're positioning their brand, or how they are approaching employee generated content. Sometimes you see they can use a lot more humor, whereas a much larger established brand has a little bit more to pause and think about.
Mm-hmm.
They're not able to experiment as much as a smaller brand is. They have to oftentimes do 3, 5 times more the hiring volume that a smaller company does. So their investment oftentimes goes into things like chatbots, or talent community technology, or accessibility widgets and the technology that supports the user experience. Oftentimes their websites get large and clunky and almost
Mm-hmm.
difficult to navigate, just because there is so much more information. Whereas smaller companies, they have slimmed down websites. They're much more of a minimalistic or modern approach to the website. The conversions are a little bit easier. So there's a lot of advantages. One of the things that we saw that we found so interesting is smaller manufacturing companies will they will set up a camera on their floor and literally just broadcast on TikTok or Instagram. There are people working on things and doing stuff, and they're getting thousands of views. People are watching the brand live, just people packing boxes, putting orders together, assembling things. It was just interesting to see people wanting to watch others work. And so, yeah, smaller brands, they can be a lot more ingenious in the way that they approach things, and they can do things that larger brands maybe don't feel comfortable doing. So those are some of the strategic advantages that they have.
Yeah, and that sometimes that need for that curiosity and that innovation, that actually inspires the larger companies to then go that direction in the future.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Gillisa, Megan, I'm going to take a sponsorship break right now, but when we return, I want to dig into Wilson HCG's employment branding report. Stay with us.
Companies today often spend a lot of time and money on employee engagement, but they don't always get the results that they want. At IRI Consultants, we help companies create an engaging culture where employees feel valued and appreciated. We combine our expertise in human resources with cutting-edge technology to deliver proven solutions for improving your workplace morale, productivity, and profitability. The IRI team is made up of experienced management consultants who, since 1979, have helped thousands of companies navigate workplace challenges. We'll help you achieve your goals by combining research-based best practices with real-life experience and practical insights to develop customized solutions based on your company's unique needs and challenges. At IRI, we focus on providing the right solution at the right price point to help you improve performance through better employee engagement strategies. Learn more today at iriconsultants.com.
I'm back now with Meghan Ford and Gillisa Pope from WilsonHCG. Now, we talked earlier about employment branding being a secret weapon and an advantage in the battle for talent. Why does it make such an impact?
Yeah, so I might argue that it might not be a secret weapon anymore. Employment branding in and of itself, okay? It used to be, certainly. But that's because not all companies embraced it previously. I think now what is really the secret weapon is the modern employment brand. I think what companies need to realize is that their employment brands need to evolve. It's not just enough anymore to have an employment brand. You know, some of the components that go into that modern employment brand that will really give, companies a leg up on their hiring competition is having an employee value proposition that's based on employee feedback. They're not afraid to share out or encourage their employees to tell their own employment stories. Galissa mentioned career sites earlier, but they've got to be kind of straightforward and a simple experience, not these big clunky things where candidates can't get to where they want to learn the information that they need to make a decision if they want to work there. I think channels for promotion are really important as well. It's not just about targeting where your audience is already. It's a candidate driven market, so there are potential candidates everywhere. So allowing your employees to kind of tell their stories on whatever channels they're on, they might get in front of another segment of the market that you didn't even realize existed, for example. And then one really, really important aspect of a modern employment brand is keeping a talent community of passive talent that's interested in your company in some way, shape, or form. They might not realize that there are roles for them, and maybe they're not at the moment. They may be for the future, but they really like your brand. They have heard good things about people who work for your company and that type of thing. And they just want to be in the know about what your company is doing. And they have the potential to maybe want to work there in the future. So keeping that talent community of passive talent really engaged, just from a content perspective, is
Mhm.
really one of the elements of a modern employment brand well.
I want to dig in a little bit to the report itself. I'm excited about this. In the report, you spelled out 6 things that people really want from their employers. Were you surprised about what made the list there?
Yeah, so I think Galissa and I will have different ones to say that kind of surprised us here, but definitely the fact that learning and development opportunities are kind of expected to be offered by the employer, that was definitely an interesting one to me. I think just for me personally, I've always put the onus on myself to continue to learn and grow, but definitely the candidates and employees, they are really looking for their employers to kind of drive learning and development, help them create a career path. The question kind of is L&D turnkey for attraction? I mean, it might be really a lot of the generations who have just entered the workforce, who are entering the workforce, they are really looking for their organization to drive that learning and development. And I kind of see it as a benefit for employers too, because they can kind of mold the talent into what they need for their future roles and for the, vision for growth at their organization.
Yeah, Galissa, what about you?
So one of the things that I noticed that maybe I didn't expect or was really interesting in terms of what talent really wants is an employer that really cares. And I read an article with Brene Brown, but more likely I watched a TikTok if I'm being honest. And she talks a lot about leadership used to be about power and strength, and now it's more about empathy and seeing each other as human beings. And I think that talent is really interested in a workplace that cares. And a lot of what we see sometimes is companies that are sort of over indexing on these transactional elements of employee value proposition. And what I mean by that is elements of compensation, so pay, benefits, perks. And that really seems to be what they used to put at the forefront of their value proposition. But what talent is looking for now are more of those differentiated elements of EVP. And those are elements that somebody can actually experience when they work somewhere. So things like Megan said, learning and development, career pathing, growing and learning new skills, a sense of belonging, diversity, inclusion, equity, having a safe workplace, um, culture, your colleagues, the way you feel every day when you go to work, the way you feel when you shut the laptop or you leave for the day. Those types of experiential elements of EVP are becoming more at the forefront of the messaging. And the transactional elements are kind of fading a little bit more into the background when we think about recruitment marketing and the content that's on career site and the messaging that's going out to attract talent.
So you also talk about recruitment marketing in the report, and I found that to be so exciting because the changes of thought here are authentic and they're rooted in the present and we're looking to the future. Let's talk a little bit about what true recruitment marketing is.
Yeah, so recruitment marketing now is very different, and what I like to say that recruitment marketing is something that's live. So brands need to be live. They need to have the courage to just go live. And what I mean by that is, typically recruitment marketing was this curated look at the past. We had this event a year ago, and here are some photos from it, and here's this event, and we did this thing and we did that thing, and all of it sort of seems more, um, you know, produced and curated and carefully thought out. It was the image that you wanted to portray, but now brands are live. We talked about, going live on social media and just showing your people working and doing what they're doing. That is interesting to people right now. Or, flipping the phone and turning the camera and being able to answer questions about your company and your organization as though you were almost an influencer. It's kind of like an influencer style of marketing that's coming out
Hmm.
where the employee voice is so important. So, in our research, we found that people are 3 times more likely to believe an employee than they are to believe a CEO or an executive about employment branding. So, being
Hmm.
able to bring your employees of the forefront, give them the ability to create content and layer in their own experiences, their own self expression to be able to describe what it's like to work there. That is where you get high impact recruitment marketing.
And I think to add a little bit onto that, and we've been talking about this, how like marketing recruitment has become, right? This inbound method and
Hmm.
recruitment marketing is an aspect of it. Just like in marketing right now, there's like a person to person marketing trend. It's no longer about business to consumer, that type of thing. It's a person to person marketing trend. Like we are in just like our daily, being a daily kind of consumer of anything. We are looking, seeking out information ourselves on review sites and things like that. And we're maybe looking on social media to see, what our friends and family and networks are saying about a certain, I don't know, taking your car to a body shop, for example, right? Or which grocery store has the best organic produce or something like that. There's very much this person to person marketing trend alive as well. And I think we're seeing that same type of thing in recruitment marketing as well.
Yeah, and you know what else, Megan? What we haven't talked about is job advertisements too. That's kind of the elephant in the room that people don't necessarily talk about, but a lot of people still become aware of opportunities by job advertisements. And we've also seen changes in how those advertisements are written and the information that's in there. So we look for really engaging job descriptions with gender neutral language, with language that's inclusive, that encourages people to apply. A lot of times, historically, we would see these job descriptions and they were exclusionary, right? They were designed to screen out. But now we're kind of flipping the script on that and we're trying to screen people in and encourage people of all different backgrounds, all different industries, skill sets, and experiences to apply to the jobs. And again, I think that really calls back to the fact that the demand for talent is so high and the supply is unprecedentedly low right now. And we need to be more inclusive. We need to find a larger addressable market for opportunities and think differently about who could be qualified for the job, where they could live, and what skills you need to bring into your organization. So, a lot of work being done in writing compelling job ads that convert.
That makes perfect sense. So, Gillisa and Megan, I've got to take time for another quick break. We're going to be right back after this. You're listening to the Project HR podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Oragua, and my guests today are Meghan Ford and Gillisa Pope from WilsonHCG. And we're back. So the report ends with a helpful checklist, a set of kind of mile markers for a modern employee brand. Can you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah. So the first one is employee value proposition. And really, what you have to ask here is what is my employee value proposition and am I delivering on these expectations? So take a good, honest look at it. If you are going to market with the EVP that you had 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it's probably falling flat at this point. There's probably some of those elements that you're missing. So again, look at the pieces that are transactional. Consider the compensation, the benefits package, the perks. Look at the experiential elements too, the things that people can experience, the differentiated elements. And then look at, your unique qualities, the mission, the vision, the value, the purpose. How does that all align and tie in with the different elements of your EVP? And talk to your employee base, talk to candidates that you engaged in the process, talk to people external to your organization that you want to attract to your company, and really do a good evaluation of your value proposition and if it's what you should be taking to market.
And then number two, employee stories. So what you need to be asking here is, are you empowering employees to tell their own employment stories? And even on the, different channels that maybe you as a company have not been, involved on, but the channels that they are on. Or are you producing the story that you want them to tell? I mean, you definitely want to avoid doing that. Authenticity, individualism, those types of things are really important here. So is spontaneous. Like, your employees should feel like on any given day, if they want to share some kind of anecdote from their working day, or an interaction they had with a coworker, things like that, that they are absolutely supported in doing that. They shouldn't be nervous, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to share this story or tell this story, when it comes to that really good stuff. Because when it comes to the not so great stuff, I guarantee you they're probably going to
Mhm.
share it,
Sure.
Um, so definitely you want to like inspire authenticity, individualism, encourage spontaneity, and not maybe do as much of the curated and ultra polished.
The next mile marker we have is career site. So, is applying for your jobs a simple and enjoyable experience? That would be the first and foremost of your career site, because it should be built for conversion. And the other component is, do you have a talent community? Do you have another conversion point for people who are more passive job seekers that want to stay in touch? And do you have a methodology in place for staying in touch with those individuals? The other component, a modern career site, is a much more minimalistic site. So, do you have a lot of clutter? Is there a lot of information that people aren't clicking on? They're not reading, they're not watching the videos. If people aren't engaging with that content, you can remove it from your site. Also, consider the imagery that you're using on your site in terms of employment branding. People want to see the people that they're going to be working with, not stock images. Stock images are so easy to spot almost instantaneously. Our brain goes, that's not real. And that's not the kind of message that you want to send talent. So, again, with a modern career site, keep it simple, easy conversions, make sure that the topics that talent cares about, diversity, inclusion, belonging, flexible work arrangements, culture, those types of items are at the forefront. It's accessible to talent. They can get the information that they need to take the action you want them to take.
I think one of the things that I love Gillisa always says when it comes to career sites, you know that book, The Life Changing Magic of Tidying Up?
Mhm, mhm.
She she applies that to a career site.
I love
So
that.
get rid of the clutter and focus on really the things that you love, right? And the things that kind of matter to anybody else who's going to be coming to your career site. So I always love that is a
Yep.
little piece of advice Galissa always shares.
Your career site doesn't bring me joy.
Yeah.
I will thank you and let you go. That's too funny.
So the next mile marker is the talent community. So the question I would say to ask yourself is, are you maintaining relationships with the people who are interested in your organization? It's okay to invest time, energy, and resources into the people who are not necessarily converting. They might have a referral in their network to work with your organization later on, or they may be a good fit for the future.
And the last mile marker here is your channel strategy. And that is simply, are you where your talent is hanging out? Are you offering and providing information in the way that each talent segment wants to consume that information? And that's just opening up your channel strategy, experimenting with new social media platforms, and new ways of creating awareness of your employment brand.
So, in the end, what do you hope that readers will walk away with from this report?
Really, what we're hoping for is that readers are getting a lot of inspiration and they are seeing what all the possibilities are when it comes to employment branding. And they're getting some of those ingenious ideas that they can implement right away, regardless of the size of the organization, the budget that they have, the investment in technology that they have. We want people to be able to move their brand forward in a really modern and meaningful way. The report is, again, it takes a brand, it breaks it down into its six core elements, and each one of those elements has benchmarks that you can view and see, am I executing on this? Am I not executing on this? And you can get really great directional information about maybe where you are optimized in your brand, what you're doing really, really well that you want to celebrate with your team, and maybe some areas where you can improve and different things that you can do to get the results that you're looking for with your inbound recruitment strategies. And we just hope that, yeah, that people are able to use the report to get inspiration, understand where they are, see the possibility of where they can be, and get really good, practical, actionable tips on how to get there.
We've mentioned Wilson HCG throughout the podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more about your organization and the services that you provide?
Sure, absolutely. So Wilson HCG is a talent solutions provider. We operate globally. We pretty much we help companies build comprehensive talent functions, whatever that may mean to them. So our services are vast. They include recruitment process outsourcing, executive search, contingent talent solutions, and then all kinds of talent consulting like employment branding, recruitment marketing, workforce planning, and some of the things that we're talking about today. So that's what we do day in and day out. Talent.
Services that are so needed right now. But if I want to find out more about you or about the report or about Wilson HCG, where can I go?
Sure. So you can go to wilsonhcg.com. You can also download the report from our website. And then for anything on me and Galissa, you can check us out on LinkedIn.
I'm easy to find. I'm the only Gillisa.
I'll bet. I'll bet. I want to let everybody know that a link to Wilson HCG's website will be included in this episode's companion guide, so be sure to unlock that today at projectionsinc.com/podcast. Right now, though, Meghan, Gillisa, it is time for our lightning round questions. These are questions I ask of every guest of the podcast. Are you ready?
Ready.
Yep. All right. All right. So our first question is always a topic showdown. In this episode, we've been talking about the role of employment, brand, and talent acquisition. So in your opinion, and this question is for both of you, and it's a tough one, which of these fictional organizations has the worst employment branding? The City of Pawnee in Parks and Rec or Dunder Mifflin in The Office?
Oh. Well, I don't know, Meg. You could take the girl out of Scranton, but you can't take the Scranton out of the girl. So I might have to go with The Office on that one.
For sure.
And I think I'm going to go the other way. Parks and Rec. Oh my goodness, what didn't go wrong, right?
I know, but I would love to work there. That would be
It would be fun. That's for sure.
It
would be fun.
Yeah.
Entertainment value alone.
Exactly.
All right. Next question. What is the best book that you've read recently?
So mine is Untamed by Glennon Doyle. Really short chapters. You can sit down for a couple minutes. Really great little tidbits to take away.
Oh, I recently read The Year of the Witching on a beach on a mini vacation. It was wonderful. Highly recommend it.
Very good. Very good. Next question. What is your favorite thing about the work you do? Meghan, if you want to go first.
Yeah, so definitely the variety of work I get to do and the autonomy in which I get to operate at Wilson. Marketing is always different and interesting and changing all the time. Keeps me on my toes, and I'm always wondering what's next. So variety for me.
Oh, I would say just being able to connect the world of work. There's no better feeling than being able to present somebody with an opportunity that's going to be a game changer and a life changer for them, and knowing that they're going to make a huge impact on that client and that organization. That is why I've been doing this for 17 years.
Love that. All right, Gillisa, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, I'll have to say it was something from my dad. Unfortunately, we lost him 2 years ago, but the last words that he spoke to me were, "Be good and have fun." And every day, I'm a good person and I have a lot of fun.
Oh, I love that.
And
Meghan, what about you?
Yeah, for me, my dad said to me just growing up, like he really just said, you can do whatever you want to do and be whatever you want to be. And it really just opened up my world to possibilities and creating my own path, which I try to keep at the forefront every day.
Love that. All right, last question. Who or what inspires you?
I feel like we're going to get sappy here. I would say my babies inspire me. They're only 6, 4, and 2 years old, but they look at the world in such a different light than we do as adults, and it challenges me to approach things with that same type of open mindset and innocence.
Yeah, I would have to say my son Lawson. He's 11. He's starting middle school, and he is so curious about things and so interested in a wide variety of topics, 3D printing and graphic design and music, and he just goes into it full throttle, learns as much as he can, and he's just a good kid and I love him. Yeah,
truly inspiring. All right, Gillisa, Meghan, thank you so much for sharing this report and your insight with us today.
Very welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right.
Yeah, it was amazing.
All right. I also want to thank those listening in. Don't forget that we took great notes on this episode for you, and you can grab those notes for free at projectionsinc.com/podcast. If you're ready for your Project HR debut, our team is always looking for outstanding guests. Let us know about your expertise at projecthr@iriconsultants.com. Don't forget to subscribe to Project HR. A new episode drops every Thursday. Finally, drop me a line, leave us a review, or give the show a handful of stars wherever you get your content. That's it for this week's episode of Project HR. Let's make it a great day at work.